Hey. All right, I'm hanging up on you now.
But he moved around the field very well, I thought. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're going to go ahead and get underway because we have a reputation for punctuality that we want to uphold. I have just posted a file to the chat. And what that file has is a list of all of the URL links for the YouTube videos that we have for this presentation tonight. Why? Well, number one is the Zoom functionality along with bandwidth sharing with YouTube is not always very comfortable. Two is that in all of those videos, there's a possibility of ads that need to be run first. And of course, some of those videos, what we want to look at isn't exactly at the start of the actual video clips that are on YouTube. So I think we're going to be a little bit more efficient if we can load those and watch them from our host computers, if that's what we need to do. Okay. So on the call tonight, first of all, thank you very much to everyone who's joining us tonight. Specifically, I want to welcome and say thank you to our panelists. They are Shaq Hill from DC, Virginia, Corey Urace from Pennsylvania West, Jeremy Zaire from Maryland. My name is Jesse Rosenthal. I'm also from DC, Virginia. Kevin Nicholson from West Virginia is going to be running late, and he will join us as much as he possibly can when he does arrive. If he arrives for a Q&A, well, he'll be having some great answers in the Q&A, and we'll work it from there. The topics that we're going to go through tonight are going to be talking about the types of corner kicks, defensive tactics, attacking tactics, referee and AR positioning and priorities, foul recognition and discrimination, goalkeeper interference, and Q&A. I have a disclaimer that all of the participants tonight are providing their personal opinions. They're not speaking on behalf of U.S. Soccer or for any state referee committee. In addition, we'll be recording this presentation, and that will be posted up on YouTube. If the recording is an issue for anyone, I'm giving you the advanced heads up now. The final thing to ask is if you have questions, please post them in the chat dialogue as opposed to speaking up, so that way we can make sure that your questions or comments get full consideration and due attention, because we do have a lot of material that we want to roll through. So some brief information about our panelists. Shaq Hill is a former MLS referee. Kevin Nicholson is the West Virginia State Director of Assignment. Corey Urace is a very, very experienced senior referee from PA West. Jeremy Zaire is similarly extremely well experienced and a mentor in training. And I saw a chapter vice president in Maryland, and I am in Virginia. And so we're going to start tonight with a discussion of corner kick team tactics. So what we have, the first format is the in-swinger kick. Where this is looking for is one of two things typically. Is one is finding the head of an attacker who can then put the ball home on net. And the second one, which a lot of people call golazos, where it's actually a shot on the net directly from the corner. If you want to click and see examples of the golazo corner kicks, they are on the YouTube link that you see on screen. And in addition, we also have a separate video that I've linked from a header target from this last tournament, but you're going to have to skip to the 219 starting point of that video in order to see it. I'm going to give people a couple of seconds to look at that. And again, if you looked at the file that I posted a few moments ago into the chat, you'll see a list of all these links so you can run that video locally. So the second type of kick doesn't have a bend at all. It is basically a driven kick where it's going either in the air or on the ground. The idea is that it's finding a direct header target, and because the velocity is directed without a bend, it should make for a more accurate placement of a header. Typically on a ground, a driven kick is supposed to switch the point of attack with an improved angle to the goal. There's a video example that I've posted here from Copa America 2021, but you'll have to open up that video and go to the 511 starting point of it in order to see it appropriately. Chris is saying that the links are not in the chat, which is bad. So I am going to try to post that again. And going to try again one more time.
Yeah, they're in there now, Jeff.
Yeah, but can everybody see them, Chris, or is it just you? You don't know that, do you?
Actually, I do, because it's showing to me as a direct message. So now I think you sent to everyone.
Okay. And David has confirmed that he can see it and download it. So I am going to just pause for a moment to make sure that everybody sees that. And in case you're wondering, the transition for these slides are a little bit of my humor. You'll notice that the slides are falling down and then can get back up as well. Okay. So the third type of corner kick that we see is an outward bend. And again, this is going to come with a curve. Typically, we see this when the kicker is right-footed and is kicking from the right side corner flag in, whereas the in-swinger that we saw an example of moments ago from the same right side corner flag is typically going to be struck with a left-footed kicker. And again, the outward bend is looking for, on the air, a header target. Or, and again, with an outward bound ground ball, where they're switching the point of attack with respect to the goal. And we may engage with a trash collector, which I will explain in a few minutes. So the trash collector is part of the attacking tactic, where you have one or more players whose job it is to deal with rebounds and power them home. Either rebounds coming from a clearance from one of the defensive teams, or if it's coming out of a teammate where part of the play is to move the ball from inside the penalty area to the top of it to improve the angle to the goal and to hopefully catch the defense off guard. And I also tell people that at the end of this presentation, I'll post all the slides. Actually, why don't I just do that now for fun? And then again, we'll overcome any bandwidth issues. So the last format of the corner is the short corner. And this is always usually played with pairs of people over the ball from the attacking side. Usually on the ground, it allows a very fast switching point of the attack, which improves the angle to the goal. If they want, the two kickers can start dribbling toward the goal as soon as there's been 2 touches. In addition, there might be a stealth quick kick option to catch the disorganized defense by surprise. And then finally, we see a lot of examples of this in age groups where the players aren't allowed to head. And so they're using the short corner to get the ball into play and basically recover what they can do on the attacking side. But of course, it's also happening in MLS. So I have a bundle of clips from Major League Soccer where New York City uses it extensively. And then there's also a coaching tutorial that I found on short corners that explains how to implement it in a way that it opens up the attack from the corner. And then the counterattack would be from the English Premier League side, where Football Scrutiny has looked at how to defend them successfully. So these are overall categories of the attacking tactics of the corner kick. We've got the first touch header option, which is the kick in, and they're looking to put the header home and put the ball into net. We'll see sometimes the attacking side will start as a bunch on top of the penalty area or even within it, and then using that as a picket fence to get separation from defenders if it's a one-on-one marking situation. They'll also set up trash collection, as we talked about a few moments ago. Sometimes the tactics include goalkeeper tracking and vision interference, which Shaq will decompose extensively later on this presentation. And then if we have a situation where one of the teams is trailing, every now and then we'll see a second goalkeeper wander into the penalty area, and it's incumbent upon the referee crew to keep an eye out and remember which of the goalkeepers is allowed to use his or her hands and which one is not. So on the defensive tactics side for the teams, they usually have 1 or 2 major options. One is a zone marking system where there's a responsibility for high danger spaces and regions of the penalty area. And this is different from the man-to-man player marking, which I don't think needs to be decomposed very much. But so here's an example of the corner kick zone marking defense. If you look at the diagram that's on screen right now, the green is the goalkeeper, the red is the defensive team, and the blue circles are attackers. Each of those red circles has a zone of control that they are responsible for defending. You've got players that are taking care of the near and far posts. North of them, those 3 players are looking for attackers running through, looking for aerial headers coming in. On the proximate to the kicker side ball, there's a marker from the defensive team who's looking to pick up the kicker once he or she releases the ball. And on top of the 18, you have the single defender who's supposed to fight off the trash collectors, as well as the blue players of the attackers, some of which will go into the penalty area, all of which may go into the penalty area, and they may live 1 or 2 players behind in order to capture any trash or second balls and put them in. So on the countering of the attacking team, the defensive team also has some typical tactics. The first being post protection. And so when we see players that are taking up near and far posts, they're doing it for 2 reasons. One is if the goalkeeper is moved off the goal line, there's essentially a backstop to take care of any near angles on the post. In addition, it makes the areas of net smaller, so the attacking target has fewer options in order to get the ball past the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper may also move off his or her goal line, looking to deny the aerial cross, either by catching or punching, by stopping shots. Sometimes their movement is vulnerable to the trash collectors, and sometimes the attacker may lend a player to keep the goalkeeper company and screen them, either by vision or by moving alongside, so that the goalkeeper doesn't have an unfettered path to interfere with the cross. And then the last interesting tactic here is the counterattack option, where a defensive team member is deliberately high in order to support a counterattack that moves the ball from the first clearance into an attacking situation in the opposite penalty area. The more that the attacking team who's taking the corner is pushed up, the more vulnerable they are to the counterattack. And again, I've included some videos here from English Premier League so that we can see some examples of how the first touch inside the penalty area from the defender is what's launching the attack from the one or two high attackers or midfielders that have been left alone. Why does this matter? Is that it changes our complexion of where the promising attack is coming from. If that outlet is the possibility for launching an attack that's 70, 80 yards up the touchline, we want to make sure that we're thinking about that with our misconduct. And with that, I am going to hand the presentation over to Shaq Hill and Corey Urace to talk about referee and AR positioning, and I'll advance the slides when they're ready. Shaq, you have the ball.
It's funny that you say I have the ball. Most of the time I think of the fact that I have the whistle. But that being said, I'll grab the ball and thank you for that. You know, it's important to know where the referee should be standing. And a lot of that has to do with what I refer to as refereemanship. And the refereemanship has to do with a couple of things. One, it just has to do with the mere fact that the referee is involved in the game and knows what the game situation is. Obviously, we have a set play and it's a corner. Do we have a corner kicker who's going to be trying the end swing that Jesse was talking about? Are they going to be trying to score a shot? And you really should have a good sense as to the strength of that kicker as to where the drop zone is going to be. So one of the things that you want to think about in the referee position is where is that ball going to land and where is the best place for you to be. So with regard to positioning, it's easy. The AR that's responsible for the goal line is either going to position themselves behind where the goal kicker is kicking, if that goal kicker is going to be on the near side. So they're going to be on the goal line extended, looking through the flag, looking through the goal line to the goal post. And what are we looking for? Obviously, we're looking for the ball maybe swinging out, going out, and then coming back in. Of course, we know the proper positioning for the AR would be to have the flag straight up. We've got the ball that's out of play, and then straight down for the goal kick signal. It's important not to be in the way of the kicker, but you don't want to give up that space either. Sometimes the younger referees will want to move away from the goal line and give that up to stay out of the way of a kicker, especially if the kicker is going from off of the field and kicking towards the field, as opposed to, being a left-handed kicker, as opposed to a right-handed kicker who's coming. So don't give up that space. If you need to, just back up. But you have to maintain the goal line as the AR. If the kick is on the other side, you still have that goal line in and out call from the beginning. So make sure that you don't give it up. As soon as the kick is made, though, you're going to want to make your adjustment to the second to last defender. So you're going to want to know before the kick, is there somebody on the post? And if that person's on the post, that might be the closest defender to the goal line because maybe the goalie's out. So the goalie might actually be that second to last defender. So even though it's a set play and sometimes we slow down a little bit because you're in position, we can't give up the fact that we're officiating and the AR has an important role along the goal line and has to make sure that they're in position at the kick and then makes that quick adjustment to the second to last defender, which again might be the goalkeeper. Now, the other AR on the other side is likely going to be pushed all the way up by the second to last defender, who's perhaps at the halfway line. And so that person's going to come all the way over, but you want to keep your eyes open and you want to be looking across the field into the kicking area. And then, as Jesse has talked about, there's a trash collector out there and there's other people that might be doing something maybe behind the referee's back. So you're going to want to make sure that you're keeping your eyes open for that. And then if there's a counterattack, you want to make sure that you're very aware that that attack may occur and that you're probably going to be the closest official on that counterattack as the referee gets on their horse to make sure that they get their way back. Corey, I don't know if you want to add anything right now with regard to the referee's position and the priorities of the AR. I've got some slides coming up, but I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second if you'd like to add something.
Real quick, I saw a question by one of our participants here about, is it good mechanics for the AR if he's on the far side from where the corner kick is taking place to step in front of the flag to get a closer view to not be obstructed by the flag? Now, technically, I'm more comfortable getting a little, having that obstruction out of my way to get closer, to be feeling closer to be able to make the correct call. However, I have been told by assessors that stay off the pitch, So I think although it might give up me a benefit, technically when you're being assessed, Shaq, is that sound something from where the MLS comes from, that you should always stay behind the flag, even if it's on that far side?
I can't speak to some of the recent things with regard to the MLS. And again, I don't want to speak with the authority of the United States Soccer, but what I've always told my officials is if something's in front of you and it's distracting you, do your best to eliminate that distraction. So if you have a younger official and that younger official might not be as tall as they will be one day, and there's a flag and it's flapping in front of you, I tell my officials, step in front of that flag, but maybe just in front of it. So you're literally 1 foot in front of the flag, as opposed to 10 yards down, and certainly, any further down. You don't want to do that, Corey, and you're right. But if you can get away from that distraction, that's going to help you see clearer. I think common sense will allow us to go ahead and do that. Certainly at the MLS level, when I was there, please don't take offense with this comment, but most of us could see over the flag without any concern of there being an obstruction. And yes, the standard at that point was to remain off the field unless you had to for some reason, and a corner kick was not a reason. But I think it's an excellent question. And I think the answer is at your local game, at your local youth game, and if the kicks is on the other side and that flag's in the way, stand in front of that flag so that you can see it. I appreciate the question. Somebody's also, it looks like Julia said that a retired FIFA referee said it's okay, it's fine, especially if you're vertically challenged. I'm not a retired FIFA referee. I was pretty darn close at the time, but I agree with that statement. Corey?
Yeah, I would agree so as well. I mean, I'm for getting it right on the pitch. If I'm the referee and I'm having my pregame with my ARs, I'm saying do what you got to do to get this thing right. Make yourself as comfortable as you can. Now, being assessed by an assessor, you might have to adjust and do it the proper way, because if there's nothing really going on in the game for an assessor to ding you with, they're going to look for little tic-tac stuff. They just give, because they always got to come up with something to help you improve your game. So, that's what I have on that. And the only other thing I could point out is, with the AR, and as Shaq said, looking for that ball in and out. Basically, your out swinger, the ball that's coming, and you see the approach, instead of coming from behind the goal line, they're coming from behind the touch line. That's going to be an out swinger. And that's a lot of times you'll see that in and out. It'll go across the goal line and come back over. So that's when you really want to be prepared to watch that ball in flight. Thank you for letting me add in there, Shaq, a few things I picked up on.
My pleasure. Now, in the chat, Chris has also added And for those that don't know Chris, very well respected instructor, very well respected referee, not only in his own right, but somebody who's also really trying to mentor. If for some reason you feel like you need to be behind that flag, step closer to the flag so it's less of a distraction. It's kind of counterintuitive. Step closer to that flag, and if I know this is going to sound silly, but if I got a big ruler in front of me, the farther out it is, maybe. But if I bring it all the way in, whatever. But do what you need to do. Corey, you're 100% right. Get it correct on the pitch. So let's draw your attention to the slide that you're looking at on the screen. So I wanted to pick this particular slide. I did some screenshots in preparation of our class today, and I want to talk about some good positioning by the referee as we see the actual snapshot of a kick being taken. So we see that the kick is on the far side of the AR. We don't see that the AR is properly lined up, and he is. And I like the fact that this referee is totally squared to the play. He's anticipating where the drop zone is going to be. There's nobody behind him. And he's waiting for that play to occur, whether there was a whistle most likely to start the play, maybe glanced over his shoulder to make sure the ball was in the proper position inside of the arc. And then once that was satisfied, he turns his attention prior to the kick to where the ball is going to land. So he's asking himself, where is the ball going to land? He knows he's got a strong kicker. It's going to come into the penalty area, probably near the penalty mark. And he's got himself focused. Now, one thing that I've been told is that maybe if he's a little bit closer to the penalty area, the 18, and where that penalty arc comes around, so that connection point between the penalty area, the top of the box, as it were, obviously we know it's not a box, but the top of the area, and then where the penalty arc comes around, I've seen that might be a better preferred position, but I like where this official is. I like how he's squared and he's ready. So the second the ball is kicked, he doesn't have to move his body, and he's set there and he's ready. So I wanted to start with image number one, good image, where we should be. Now, we have another where the referee is looking through the players to the opposite side of the field. As Jesse put it, on the right side, we see that there's going to be a left-handed kicker. We've got the AR standing right there at the flag, right down the goal line. And you'll see that the referee's positioned kind of closer to where I had referenced earlier. He's on the 18-yard line at the top of the area, right by where that penalty arc is going to come in at that intersection. And he's ready for that drop to occur. And he's got a great position. Now, before we go any further, these are two great examples, in my opinion, as to where the referee should be at the beginning of the kick. But I want to talk to you briefly about where the referee should be as they're setting up for the kick. Now, think about this. At the higher level games and the more sophisticated the player, if you set up at the same place every time, so every time there's a near to the AR kick or the right side of the field as we're looking, or the right side of the pitch as we're looking, if you set up at the same place every time and you go right to your spot, maybe you take a break while they're trying to track down the ball or whatever have you, and if you stay there, the better players, the more sophisticated players, the more sophisticated coach, they're going to cue their players off of where you're at. So if they know the referee is going to be standing right there, then I don't know, some of the players may take advantage of that. So as a practice, I've heard it been said before, and I actually am teaching this. When the corner kick is awarded, I work my way to the penalty spot. I kind of stand right in the penalty spot. Now, I'm right in the middle of the mix. And if I need to say something, because maybe this is the third or fourth penalty, maybe I need to say something to the players, hey, occupy your own space, keep the hands down, keeper, I'm watching you, then I can do that from the penalty area, right at the penalty spot. Now, I don't wait until the kick is imminent. That's too late. But as the kicker's starting to set up, then I start working my spot back to where I want to be. And I want to be right where this referee is. So think about that as you are officiating. Don't go to your preferred spot on the outset. Go somewhere else. I use the penalty area. I like it, or the penalty spot. I like it. And you start there and then work your way back as you officiate along the way. Hey, keep your hands down. Hey, guys, watch out. Don't obstruct the keeper. You've got the right to stand there, but just make sure that you're doing it correctly. So image 3, I wanted to talk about this. This referee appears at first glance to be pretty far away from what I'm going to call as the drop zone or the preferred start. But I think you can see quite simply, just like Jesse had mentioned earlier, that this is a short corner, at least potential. So the referee has to make that adjustment and go over and officiate on that side. Of course, we've got the hash mark, which is off of the field, that demarks the 10 yards away from the outside of the penalty, the outside of the arc of the ball, so we can monitor that the proper distance is being respected. But the referee in this situation, and this is what I wanted to show you, is moving to appropriately prepare for the potential of a short kick. If you notice too, the referee's body, at least the way I view this, is he's not focusing on the kick and the location of the ball. He's still focusing with his body squared, and I think that's his left foot forward, which even, he's looking at the drop zone area, and you can see right there that the players are already, kind of starting that contact movement. But my point is, move as you need to, especially if there's going to be a short kick. So here we have a great situation of the referee has stepped into the penalty area. If you're going to go into the penalty area, my suggestion is don't go in that far. There is a slide that I'll explain in a second as to why I think it's a good idea that the referee chose to do it then. But we've got a kick from the far side where the referee has stepped in. But more importantly, there's a player standing at the penalty arc in the 18. And the reason I added this slide is just because the referee's got to adjust to the players. You don't want to have the players adjust to you. And he's still focusing in on where the action is there. So go ahead, Jesse, flip me over. Here, I want to make a comment on this particular position. I think the referee might not be in the best position in this particular case. So he is not in the preferred area, which is where the ball is going to land, where he has a clear shot from everybody's back, from the behind side. He's kind of in the penalty arc. One thing that I've been told, and perhaps you have as well, is that's an area where the ball will generally travel out if it's going to be kicked out by the defense or the keeper. And you're kind of in a well-known passing lane, and you really want to avoid that. What I want to draw your attention to is I think the referee could have come to the near side where the penalty arc hits the 18, squared his way with his back towards the AR, and officiated looking forward. Now, that's called an overload situation. He's overloading the near side of where the AR is. But in that particular situation, he would have nobody behind him because, as you notice, the team that's kicking is in white. He's got a white attacker behind him and a defender close. I don't know if that comment's for me, but I heard somebody stretching maybe. But if he comes to the near side and he overloads that, for a fraction of a moment, he's not going to be able to see the AR. The AR is not going to have an offside on the kick because we all know there is no offside on the corner kick. And I think he might have a better position to officiate as the players are moving towards him. And I really think that this might be an opportunity for the official to come closer to the AR and officiate on an overload side. I'm going to pause for just a moment. There's a couple of chats coming in. Let me bear with me for a second. There you go. Yep, you're welcome, Chris, for calling me Shark. No worries.
While you read that chat, can I chime in a few things?
Absolutely. Thank you.
I want to definitely emphasize one of the things you said, because I had that in my preparation. And, corner kicks aren't much to be discussed. I mean, I've been refereeing for 22 years. I think this might be my first clinic really dealing with them like straight on. So I haven't heard much instruction, but the one instruction that you said is the changing of your position during the match, because as you said, maybe not in your youth matches, but those coaches that are strategically trying to come up with any advantage are going to look and say, look, the referee is setting up the same place every single time we have a corner kick. So get into that near post. He's leaving the whole near post wide open. He can't see. He's obstructed because he's setting up on the far, D or whatnot. So I loved how he said, go in there, act like you're managing, let it be a mystery, and then sink into your position. And I also, back to that positioning number 5, Jesse, if you could point that out. And Shaq, I was actually hoping that you were going to say something like this, was that referee come into that overloading position. I think Jolie even said, I like to go there too. And I was talking to Jesse in preparation to this about, I sort of like to come there because I want to see the player's eyes. I don't know why. I think that if I see them looking at the ball and there's contact, I'm like, you know what? Their eyes are up. They're not going directed at a defender to knock them off. So sometimes I'm more comfortable there. So I think a lot of these positioning things could be suggestions, but as you get experience and you find your niche and what you're comfortable with and what you're accustomed to seeing, and even like, when the players, you see defenders always coming forward because they're the guys that are winning the 50-50s all over the pitch. Every corner kick, you see them coming up into the drop zones. You sort of know where they're going to try to place the ball. So even positioning to watch the target guys they're looking for as well. Thank you, Shaq.
No, very good. And I actually, particularly, again, where's the ball going to drop? I constantly am asking myself that on a throw-in, on a set play, on any dynamic play. I'm constantly asking, where's the ball going to go? Now, the play is unpredictable. If the skill level is different, they might not even know where the ball is going to go. But if the kicker is going to be able to kick it decently far into the penalty mark area, then I might want to come over in this particular slide, overload it, square to the field. I've got my back momentarily to my AR. I'm aware of that, so I'm sensitive to it. And I know that my AR is going to primarily be calling an offside. Of course, they're going to help me if there's a handball push, anything along those lines. And Corey, to your point, if I can kind of see what they're doing and I see their eyes, I can kind of judge an intent. Is he going to come up? Is the attacker going to go through the back? Something going on like that. So I have started to use kind of the overload as more of a preferred side for me. Now think about this. In the dynamic play, we're not talking about that today generally, but in the dynamic play, FIFA wants us to get in front of that play. And so when the play is coming to us, so they want us to overrun the play, get to the attacking third, even if that means we're kind of looking backwards as the play comes to us and then around us. So this is something that is recognized as, kind of maybe of a more preferred area. Chris has asked a question, how much do you think the referee should move after the ball has been kicked, but before it's next touched? I think that's a great question. Again, it's going to be based on your comfort level. It's going to be based on the skill of the players. But I wouldn't suggest that you move much. Maybe laterally left and right, depending upon the dynamic of the players. If you're trying to keep an eye open on the keeper because the last corner kick, there was an obstruction, and now as the players move to receive the ball, they've obstructed, not in a penalty way, but they've obstructed the goalie. You can't see the goal, and you need to move. Then I would say it's free game to move. On the other hand, sometimes if you're moving, you're not quite seeing if there's a grab, and sometimes you lose a little bit of your acuity because you're moving, the players are moving. So I think the answer to the question is it's not a set in stone. I personally like to be still. I like to watch the play develop. I don't want to move, but I think you're okay if you do move. So Jesse, if you could go to the next image. What I wanted to show here, we did a lot of talking about what we should be doing. So I wanted to show this kind of a scenario where the referee is not doing what the referee should be doing. So I wanted to kind of put a don't do this slide up. And I think there's a couple of things that hopefully you've seen right away. One, I think the referee in this image is way too far away from where the drop zone is going to be. The referee squared to the ball and is paying more attention to the ball. And you'll see in this animation that there's already players moving, there's already players bumping into each other, and the referee's overly concerned about the ball. And I think that that's certainly an error. So this referee in this picture could come all the way up to where the penalty arc is and the 18 and would be in a much better position to officiate this play. So I wanted to show you what I think is a bad move. Don't do this, and don't do this. So let's get to the next slide. Thank you. And again, here, again, don't do this. It's too far away. The referee's too far away. If anything, the referee could come over to the overload side. Certainly come in closer. But the bottom line is, if you're officiating in a game where you're going to have a competitive corner kick, you need to be there where your position allows you to see the play, and it also allows you to sell the call that you're going to make if there is a potential call or a potential penalty. So don't be in this position. So the last slide that I wanted to share with you is one from yesterday. So here, if you take a look at the scoreboard, you've got Argentina's up, and you've got a nice kick coming in, and we're in the 87th minute. We've got a high intensity game. We've got the Copa America Championship. The referee has stepped into the penalty areas, at about the 16-yard line. And the reason why I like this is because he is absolutely where he needs to be. He's probably as mentioned instructions to the players. Hey, men, I know that we're getting close to the end. Keep it clean, keep it fair, keep it square. And he's actually come in. The other thing that this referee has made a self-assessment of is how fast can he get back on a counter? So he's already asked himself that question. So he knows that the game is winding down. Presuming if there isn't a score, we go into overtime. So he did a self-assessment. If this ball goes to a counterattack, how much energy do I have? And he's, by his positioning, he's told us that he's got enough energy that he can be where he's at and then get back on the counter. But I think the important thing to note here, and I thought it was just kind of fun that I pulled one out from the game yesterday, is that he's actually stepped into the area and he's right on top of it, and good positioning on that.
Hey, Shaq, good question. What's up with the AR on that image 8? Why is he off the goal line?
Yeah, let's go back to that if you don't mind, Jesse. In this particular case, you'll notice that the ball has been struck about a second ago. If you see it, it's in flight and it's moving. So even though it looks like the AR is standing still, the AR started in the correct position, and I think right before the kick occurred, had already started his momentum to move out because he knew it was going to be an outswinger. So he knew it wasn't going to be that the goal line was not necessarily in jeopardy, and has already started to come back to get into the second to last defender. I think he's beyond that. I can't speak to why he would be, but I recall seeing it, but he came out quickly. I think you could argue he's probably a little bit too high right now. And it's a good question on Charles to have picked that up. But I'd like to see him a little bit closer to the flag because that's where the second to last defender is. The only other thing I can comment is that none of the attackers are closer either. So maybe he felt comfortable to pull out, but yeah, he started correctly, but then adjusted quickly. So.
Yeah. And when you mention this referee's stance and his mannerisms and, you know, his body language, I mean, look at that guy. He is intense. He got his eye on that, you know? So when I'm standing in whatever position I set up in, as Shaq said, you want to be squared shoulders where you got as many players in your field of vision. Back away if you have to. See the big picture. You know, you don't have to be in so tight. But with that leg spread, a little bit of bend, I'm intently looking in. If somebody's doing something, I'm calling numbers and I'm pointing. And there's a guy doing the keeper interference, and don't worry, I'm looking right at it. Keep, I got you. That's the position that the players are going to respect. My standing there, maybe with my gut out or my arms folded, you know, we want to look like we're given the money's worth, and we want to be there, and we're there for the players. So I think even your body language can scream volumes. And this guy right here is showing everybody that he's on top of it.
Great. Thank you very much.
We're going to transition next into talking about player management, and that means it's up to Jeremy.
Hi guys, I'm Jeremy Zaire. I'm a longtime referee from Maryland. We want to talk a little bit about player management and foul recognition. Why do the fouls occur? We're going to start thinking about the defensive fouls. What's happening when a defender commits a foul from a corner kick? They're trying to limit the attacker's movement. It's usually holding, tripping. There's pushing also, trying to prevent them from moving. Anything to prevent someone from trying to deny the shot on goal. I'm sure we're all picturing any game that we've seen defensive players doing that. So just thinking about that. The next is when attackers commit a foul, what are they trying to do? Are they even the ones that are trying to receive the ball? They're trying to create space. They're trying to get the defenders out of there. We've all had those calls where we're looking, like stepping back, looking at the big picture, and we see the attacker like just moving the defender out of the area, trying to create space for them, trying to get the ball cleanly to one of their teammates for an easy shot. So they're just trying to limit the defensive options, and we've all had the player who's jumping up and down, moving a little bit too much with the goalkeeper, giving us the easy call to let everyone know that we're really engaged. We know what's going on. They're trying to prevent the goalkeeper from the line of sight, but then also obstructing. So those are some of the main type of fouls that occur while in the area from a corner kick, both offensive and defensive. If you are thinking also at it, if you can remember just a minute ago, the risk reward calculation, remember image 8, what they were talking about. The referee was in position to talk about or to catch it, because the risk reward, that's a high risk, high reward situation. And the defensive team, or even the attacking team, especially the attacking team, they were down at their reward for the risk is that they're not giving up a penalty. If they commit a foul and the referee doesn't see it, that's a really high reward. If he doesn't see it or doesn't determine it's worth calling, they got a goal there. So that is something that you have to always be calculating. That referee had, again, great position. He did that calculation in his head. Like, I have to be right here. This is going to be the most desperate time, most important time. A player 87th minute down, if they're already on a caution, they're not really necessarily, if that's going to get them another 30 minutes to try to win a major tournament, they may not be thinking, oh, I'm already on a yellow. If it's going to get them a goal, they may be willing to risk a little bit more. So yeah, you always have to remember that. Next slide. So one thing you want to think about the foul discrimination in the area. The corner kick, Corey mentioned, he's never had a clinic or a talk that's specifically just about corner kicks. However, that's where a lot of stuff happens. A lot of stuff is going on a corner kick. You have to be at your absolute top in there because so much is going on. So we can think everything is a game critical decisions, whether you call something or choose not to call something. I'd actually talked with Jesse about this, about the next bullet point. The referee crew needs to be consistent with all the fouls that they call. I've been at many games where the argument is if it's a foul in the area, it's a foul outside of the area too. I don't know about you. I don't really want to play in a game where a game management foul is at midfield is called in the penalty area. I don't want to play in that game. I don't want to watch that game. I don't want to ref that game. That's not why we're playing soccer, for referees to show that they can catch every little foul. So you got to think about that. Those are things that need to come into your calculation, calling the fouls and what you're looking at. One thing that we haven't touched on when calling fouls, you got to call the fouls that are going to provoke the violent retaliation. What are we talking about? One of the main things is anytime an attacker does anything to the goalkeeper, everyone's sensitive to that. The defensive players are going to be extra sensitive and care a lot more. If there's a player around the goalkeeper, they're going to be there. You also have to watch out, though, if the guy kind of being the irritant to the goalkeeper, you really want to think about, does a defensive player come in, and if he's not doing anything, if he's just doing normal tactical stuff, but a defender takes it on themselves to clear him out, you got to be watching for that, because that's something that could happen. We've seen it. I've seen it happen. They'll just come in and clear him out. And got to be ready to call that too, because that can be like even upwards of a violent conduct if the guy's been irritating all game and someone's looking for a place when you're not looking for it. So the next bullet point, the approximate AR alert for the corner ball kick placement. So if you are nearer to the ball on that, you got to look. You can be watching easier for all the moving ball and the defensive encroachment. It's easier usually for the center when the ball is near there. The AR is taking care of everyone, all the little shenanigans that happen there. Trying to keep the defenders out or attackers moving the corner kick flag. I don't see that too often. I think most people are know not to, but they'll still try it, and you got to be watching for it. And then we didn't talk a whole lot about the trail AR positioning, but that's a great thing to talk about in the in a pregame. Like, what do you want from them? I usually kind of instruct them, like, I can't, in the 10 minutes I usually have, or 5 minutes between games that I usually have, I'll tell them just like, look where I'm not looking. Like, you're going to see my eyes. I'm not going to, my head's going to be on a swivel, but if you see something, don't hesitate to just be watching, just anything I might not see. So, and then the final point on the counter attack is very good. You might get caught out of position. You may not be the FIFA guy who can catch up completely. I'm not. And so they're going to have the lead on a quick counter attack. So let them know. Let's see, next slide. So one thing that you do need to think about, what is going to determine the foul? You know, if Shaq had mentioned it, like, I always like to watch the eyes on these. I try to have a step back and look. You never, that's one of my keys, because if if everyone's in close proximity and they're just kind of feeling with their hands to know where everybody is, and a guy feels the hands in his back, and then goes down and crumpled up, that's not going to be a foul. But from the video example, it's great. You see the guy just line someone up, have his arms out, take a few steps into him, and you're like, oh, you know exactly what he's doing, what he did, and why he did it. That makes it easy and an easy call. In the video, you'll see if you go to it, you'll see that the referee didn't look engaged. I didn't think he was in good position. He cared more about where the ball was being kicked from, and missed a penalty, which was a game critical decision, and that could provoke retaliation later on too, if you're thinking about it, because you don't appear engaged and you miss something like that. I'm sorry, I had that thing pop up. I lost my train of thought. But yeah, you just got to watch them, and if they line them up, that's a great time for someone to take something out, or even just think they can get away with something. So it's got to stay engaged. A lot of times, the next bullet point, it will matter who initiates it. Is the defender may have his arms out, but and I'm going with the arms here, he may have his arms out, but does the attacker back into him? Because if you're watching, you don't want to get run over by the attacker, or even they're having the big guys come down. The guys get the head on the ball. So it will matter who initiates the contact and what happens. And does it matter when the contact instigates a disproportional reaction? That's going to vary game to game. Situational awareness. You have to know, like, is this guy think he's been fouled multiple times throughout the game? Is there more at play? So they're going to try to get a reaction, try to get something from the referee, trying to get the call. So it does matter when you just have to be always have the awareness. Next slide. So corner kicks, this is I going back to it. It's something that should probably be talked about more. It's one of the biggest situations for player management. I hadn't heard again how Shaq talked about it, but that's a great thing. Go to the penalty area. Just let everyone know that you're there. You're engaged. You give them the time to talk. Then go to your position. A lot of us aren't doing the games with the coaches who are clever enough to recognize that you go to the same spot every time. So if that's what you end up doing, that's fine. But just it shows engagement, and you can do a lot of preventative refereeing from that. If the defensive team does commit a foul, it's going to be a penalty kick. So it's going to be the attackers are always going to be aware of that. They're going to exaggerate the fouls. They're going to look for any opportunity they can to just basically, I don't want to say trick, but just exaggerate any kind of contact that you have. Again, there's already potential for mass confrontation there. They're already there, and the stakes can be higher, especially at the end of the game. So you just have to have the awareness for the potential of mass confrontations. There's I had touched on it earlier. The defenders are going to have a higher sensitivity to contact with the goalkeeper. So just to have that awareness, anything, even if the goalkeeper instigates it, the defenders are naturally going to be attacking them, or not attacking. They're going to have any look for any excuse to defend them. Let them know the goalkeeper, they got their back. Want them to know there. So just have that awareness. And then one thing that we haven't touched on yet was there is an offside on a corner kick. So that's something that's taken away from the defending team. So they don't have that as the safety valve. They don't have that as a way to have the defender. It gets reactivated quickly after the second touch, but they have to be maybe even playing deeper than they're particularly want to. So I have to say that. I think is that it? That's it. I talked a lot and fast there. So thank you.
Jeremy,
Yeah.
good stuff.
Before we get here, the couple questions in the chat. Jesse, if I could
Go for it, Chuck.
okay, so we've got Stuart and we got a couple good points. Stuart and Julie have asked regarding trickery, particularly when it comes to potential short corners. So the attacking team is going to set up, the kicker places the ball down, everybody's kind of ready, and then says, hey, Fred, hey, Sally, you come take the kick. And then just as that attacker is walking away, contacts the ball, touches the ball, and it moves. So the question that I read on the chat is, do we do anything about that as the officiating crew? Does that, if that corner is being taken by the near AR, is there a signal that the AR needs to give? What do we do? Well, first of all, so let me answer my own question. If the kick is taken by the near side AR, that near side AR better see that the ball was properly put down and was kicked, touched, and moved. Therefore, the ball is live. So if teammate is coming over and they want to get the ball and dribble it down and proceed with a live ball, that's great. If that kicker is somehow, maybe the defense saw the ball move and now the defense is coming up and the kicker wants to reach down and maybe pick the ball up and reposition it. Well, they're in jeopardy of handling the ball. So then the attacker needs to, or the AR needs to put his flag up and penalize appropriately. But the game of soccer, as we know, is not a game of trickery. It's a game of skill. We want to eliminate as much trickery as possible, but a smart play, a good play where the ball is properly placed, it's still, and then it's kicked and moves. It's a live ball. So there's nothing we do. We don't do any new signaling. We don't try to, there's nothing that I'm aware of that the AR tells the referee, but we just absolutely have to be aware when that situation occurs that we got a live ball and then we treat it accordingly. I hope that answered your question. Another question came in. What happens if the attacking keeper comes all the way over to the other side and now they've got fully 11 people there trying to score at that last minute? I was actually a little surprised it didn't happen in the game yesterday, but still enough time. Do we reposition ourselves with the potential of a counterattack and I think the answer to the question, Brian, it looks like you've asked it, I don't reposition myself. I still account for the players that are now positioning themselves to be involved in that corner kick. And I now have to account for an additional player that's not normally there, i.e. the goalkeeper of the kicker. And I also now have to analyze in my head a long shot might trickle into the net on the other side if there's a counter kick. I don't do anything special, but I do make sure that I've accounted for it. So hopefully that answered your question as well. So I appreciate that. Jesse, if you want to get to where we are, the goalkeeper and movement fouls.
Yes, go ahead, Chuck.
Great. So just like Jeremy was saying, when you've got the goalkeeper in a close proximity with attacking players, the goalkeeper, I've always told all of the officials that I've ever mentored or I've ever been an assessor for, the goalkeeper is the fastest flashpoint in the game. You do something to the goalkeeper and all hell can break loose. So even if it's a dynamic play, a keeper's coming out, attacker's going in, and the defending team feels like that their goalkeeper was mishandled or not taken appropriate protection by me as the official, man, a great game can just go south very quickly. So we as officials have to be very attuned to that flashpoint situation as the goalkeeper's involved more than pretty much almost any other player. So I want to make just one general comment with regard to that. So quick scenario, not going to spend a lot of time on it, but you're the referee. You see that that there's interference with the goalkeeper. You see it. I'm at the penalty spot. I'm monitoring the placement of the kick, but I see that the teammate of the kicker is standing in front of the goalie. I'm anticipating maybe some kind of obstruction, something along those lines, especially if there's a goalkeeper tracking scenario. I want to make sure that, one, I start handling that as early and as quickly as I can, not coaching, but saying certain things like, hey, occupy your own space. I'll even tell the goalkeeper, hey, keeper, I'm watching you. I've got my eye on you. Now, that's not a threat. It's just a comment. But what I'm basically telling the attacking team is, because I'm watching the keeper, I'm watching you. So through all the years that I've been officiating, I've made a couple of mistakes. And one of them is I've blown my whistle to penalize an attacker in that situation. Now, just ponder that for a second. Slow down. I've blown my whistle to penalize the attacker. Well, if the ball's not in play, I don't have a penalty. I've got misconduct. And if I'm going to punish that attacker, the only recourse I have is a yellow or a red card, because we all know that the restart is going to be a corner kick. So I've learned through my own trial and error and my own mistakes that I'm going to want to talk to them. My presence, refereemanship is what I refer to it as. But the second that ball is kicked, if there's goalkeeper interference, goalkeeper tracking, anything along those lines, I hit my whistle when the ball's in flight. I've got an obstruction. Now I can penalize it because the ball is live. It's against an opponent. It's on the field. And I got an obstruction and we're going out. And the ball is still up in the air. It's maybe even still going up. And the beauty of doing it that way is that you only do that once in a game, because the attacking team's not going to do that anymore. So we know that the goalkeeper has the ability to use their hands inside their own penalty area. They can catch the ball, they can parry it. At that moment, they're in charge. They're the king of the soccer chessboard. But we also have to make sure that we don't have a player that's denying the goalkeeper's vision or is in any way limiting the goalkeeper from using that ability to be the soccer chess king. And if that happens, and if there's tracking, so hopefully everybody knows what I mean, and I'll show you a slide here in a second. But if you've got an attacking player that's standing in front of the goalie, let me see how I look. I've got my camera over here. Hold on a second. So if you got the goal, you got the goals behind here, you got the goalie, and you've got the attackers right in front of them, and kind of looks over the shoulder like a pitcher who's going to throw it to first base, and if that goalkeeper moves out, the player moves out. I'm waiting for the kick. I got my antenna up, and I'm anticipating that there's going to be a goalkeeper tracking. And as soon as that ball is kicked, if that happens, the goalie moves left, that player moves left, we're done. I don't even have to wait anymore, and I've got an obstruction, and we're going out. And it only happens once, like I said before. On the other hand, we have to be careful. Corey mentioned this too. If we've got an aggressive attacker, that attacker has the ability to own that space. We can't take that away from the attacking team. Certainly, it's a tactical advantage to be able to stand that close to a goalkeeper. Why not? So we can't take it away. So we have to watch out for the defender coming through as well. But if there is a denial of the goalkeeper's movements in the penalty area, or a denial of their ability to use their hands, which is appropriate at that point in the game, we certainly have to penalize that. And then if there's any kind of rapid switch or anything that causes any disruption whatsoever with regard to the goalie, and it prevents a counterattack or something along those lines, we need to make sure that we're handling that as well. And So we'll go ahead. We can go ahead and switch over to the next slide real quickly. So what are some of the tactics? Well, we've got a mobile screen. We've got the attacking player who jumps up in front or in between the goalkeeper and is trying to block the vision of the goalie. Is trying to pick the goalie, and obviously we can't do that. So if that attacker is there, then the attacker is able to maintain that position, no problem. But if the corner kicks triggers the attacker to then move in line with the goalkeeper and track that goalkeeper, then we need to know that that's happening. So that's why we're square in our body, as I mentioned earlier, and we're looking straight at the action. And if we need to, we come over to an overload, especially if the kicker is not going to be able to, kick it quite as far because of maybe it's a youth game and they're not kicking it quite as far. Then we want to make sure that we're in that potential. So, it's sometimes it's the attacker's job to join the defense and kind of be right there along the post. They're allowed to be there, but instead of shrinking the goal with their presence, the attacker's position could frustrate the goalkeeper in accessing the goal line. So we have to be aware that if that position inhibits the goalie, and it does so because of that attacker is moving, then we pretty much have a foul by the attacker. Now I'm going to slow down for a quick second to say this. In my opinion, if that attacker is standing there and doesn't move, and just by the mere fact that they're occupying that space, and the ball bounces around and it's pinging, and that attacker's there, the attacker doesn't have to disappear. The incumbency is on the goalie and the defensive team to work around that attacker. But if the attacker moves in any way, and that movement prevents the goalkeeper from using the skill that the goalkeeper brings to the table, then we have a penalty. Let me just take a quick look at the great advice from Fred. Thank you. You're welcome. Can you elaborate on a mobile screen? So the mobile screen, attacking team assigns a player that is going to track the goalie. So that player is gesticulating, I think the book says, moving up and down, waving their hands, hey, kick it to me, but they're not really trying to get the attention of their teammate. Their intent is to distract the goalie. And as the play is kicked, now we've got a drop zone. That mobile screen moves either one player or two players, and it starts blocking the vision of the keeper. We have an infraction of the law. So that's what we're really referring to. And I think you'll see it in the next slide if we go to that, Jesse. So here we have an actual game situation. And we've got, so I want you to focus primarily on the inside of the goal area there. So we've got the teammate of the kicker, and the kicking team is white. And we've got the teammate of the kicker. We've got three attackers right there inside of the penalty area. There's four defenders, one straddling the line, and the keeper. So we got a lot of people there. You see the referee recognizes it and is kind of cheated in quite a bit, actually. I don't know the whole circumstance of the game, the time, but the referee's cheated in. But I think the important part here is you've got a white player. It's kind of hard to see, but you've got that white player, the red player. There's clearly touching each other. There's clearly contact there. And you've got another player that's right smack dab standing in front of where the goalie would be if the shot was taken from the penalty mark. So the referee has to be aware of this. So if the ball goes out to the penalty spot, there's a shot that comes in. The mere fact that that guy's standing there could be obstructing the goalie. If he's onside, good play, as long as he's not moving to obstruct the goalie and the goalie's ability to use the goalie's skill. So here you've got a referee that sees the situation. Hopefully they're verbally saying something to the players. Obviously tons of fans, maybe they can hear, maybe they can't hear, but the presence of the referee is hopefully calming this down. But we have to recognize this as a referee crew. Now on the far side, on the side of the right where the AR is. We should have the AR along the line, goal line, and is also seeing some of this, some of this contact here. And just like Jeremy said, when does contact become a foul? When is it just normal player movement? That's all in the discretion of the referee. But if something should happen here, the referee seems like he's in a good position and he's aware of what's going on. We've got a second image here. And so we've got the referee standing in what I prefer is a great position here. But I want to draw your attention to where the goalie is. You got a teammate of the kicker all by himself, standing right smack dab in front of the goalie. I mean, this is a huge potential for an offensive foul. Any kind of movement by that attacker that parallels or tracks the goalie is really something that we, as the officiating crew, have to be aware of. So perhaps when the ball is in the air, Chris, you asked the question: can you move when the ball is in the air? Maybe if the ball is coming right here into the 6-yard line. 6-yard area, maybe I take a step or two in because I want to make sure that player that's standing right in front of the goalie is doing it in a legal way and is not doing it in an illegal way. So that's the last that I have on the obstruction. I don't see anything in the chat. So I want to finish my general comments before we get into the Q&A. We haven't really touched on this, Jesse, but let me say this. So we've got a high pressure environment. It's called a goal kick. It's called a corner kick. We've got at least 11 players, 12 players, maybe more. We've got a flashpoint that Jeremy was talking about. We're trying to look at the eyes that Corey was mentioning. We're there. We're in position. So now, we've got a cross, a header, some contact, the ball's in the back of the net. The referee glances over to the AR. The AR is moving smartly up the line. Good goal signal. I'm going to challenge all the referees right here and now. Keep your head up. Do not turn your back, point to the center of the field, drop your head down, and reach for your book. Keep your head up because you've got a potential flashpoint, especially if there was contact, a header, maybe a high kick, a bicycle, whatever. But you're in a big environment right here, a high intensity environment. You can't put your head down. The AR that moved smartly up the field because they thought it was a good goal, great positioning, great mechanics. Keep your eyes on the field. So you can move smartly up the field, but you keep your eye into the field. The trailing AR, who's most likely at the 50-yard line, halfway, keep your eyes up. In fact, I would cheat and maybe take a step or two or three towards the attacking goal, just so that you're there. Nobody else even going to notice if nothing happens. But you've got your head up. As the players start dispersing, they celebrate. You take a step or two back. If there's confrontation because there's been something else, you take a step or two forward and you let everybody, hey, I'm right here, guys. That's a good goal. Or maybe not. So we didn't really talk about what happens after the corner kick scores. So I just wanted to make sure that you've got your head up. You're not burying it in a book. You're not turning your back and walking away from this flashpoint. And you're managing it at the beginning of the corner kick, through the corner kick, and during the aftermath. So I appreciate it. I don't see any new questions coming into the chat right now. So Jesse, I turn it back over to you for questions and answers.
Thanks, Shaq. Before we do anything else, I want to make sure that I'm also turning it over to Corey to see if there's anything else you want to add.
Yeah, Jesse, can you go back to image number 1 of the goalkeeper obstruction that Shaq went? One more before this. I want to talk about, a lot of times the goalkeeper will look for you when they feel like they're getting invaded. And I think when the referee decides, and if you decide to walk in tight like this guy is, you're gonna earn a lot of trust in that to get that deep, to get involved, and to let him know that you're there and you got your eyes on it. That way he won't keep looking at you, and he'll give you a thumbs up a lot of time. Thank you, and you know you're on it. Now you do decide to get this deep. We got to keep in mind, we get hit with the ball. It's a drop ball to the keeper, which nullifies any goal scoring opportunity. So you get deep, you take the courage, and you make sure you don't get struck with the ball. And also, I love how Jeremy brought the trailing AR. We did not talk about the trailing AR like at all. He needs to, the trailing AR, yeah, you have your area of control, right? But there's a thing called a travesty to the game. That's what Paul Tamburino, many of you may know, calls a travesty to the game, where if the trailing AR saw something that's a travesty to the game, it is worthwhile putting your flag up if you're ready to sell the house on a call. I was the near AR once, center AR. We had a ding, ding, ding in a conference championship game in college. He blows the whistle and he starts running at me. And I'm like, the ball didn't go in the net. What the hell does he want from me, And he goes, who did it? Who did it? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, somebody handled the ball and somebody got to go. And I don't know who did it. And I'm looking through a train of players, and it happened on the far side of me. And I said, man, I don't know who it was, man. You better go check the trailer. Luckily, the trailing AR had a wonderful view looking down on it, caught it. So he was there, be in tune. And Brian Jackson asked a question, if you have the goalkeeper come down, would it change my positioning to say, wow, we have a whole wide open goal on the other side. Maybe I shouldn't get so deep, because I might need to have a recovery run going the other way. And I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, I don't change my positioning. My pregame is always to whoever's the trailing AR, if you catch me deep or I'm in a recovery run, expand your area, take more control of that half. Look to see where I am. If I'm deep, far from play, expand your area of control. So that way the trailing AR is understanding that he's important, just like anybody else is on these plays. So I'm looking at what's more important right now. Right now, I got 22 players, maybe in the penalty area. I think I'm going to get deep and concentrate on that. And I'll take that risk reward that Jeremy even said. Beautiful stuff, Jeremy. I'll risk, being there where most of the players are, and allow the trailer to maybe take a 1v1 all by himself, even if it takes him pretty distant to like halfway across the field. So that's a couple of things I have with your trailing AR, travesty to the game. And if you do get in tight, make sure you don't get hit with the ball. Thanks for letting me share that.
Thanks, Corey. Pablo's got a new question, and Shaq's taking it.
Yeah, Pablo's asked in the chat, and please feel comfortable right now. This is your time to ask questions, so please put questions in the chat. I'm going to interpolate your question, Pablo. We all know that the keeper has their particular protection and their ability to use their hand when they're inside their own penalty area. Can we talk briefly about what if the keeper has the ball at their feet? Is there any special protection for the keeper in that regard? The answer is no. So we know that the law mandates that one of the players on the field has to have the funky shirt on. The funky shirt makes him the goalie. And the keeper only has special protection inside of the penalty area that allows the keeper to use their hand and to touch the ball, so handling the ball. Inside of the penalty area, outside of the penalty area, anywhere else, it's a regular, on-field player. So if the keeper's given up their ability to use their hands because they maybe they caught it, put it down, and now they're dribbling out and they decide to miskick it or flub it or whatever. I mean, it's an on-field player that it can be challenged like any on-field player. They can be shoulder to shoulder to the ground, they, whatever, as long as it's fair, obviously. So I think it's a great question, but I do think that for younger officials, there's a tendency to want to give extra protection or extra precaution for the goalie in every situation, but please don't. So if the ball is down and it's on the ground, the keeper's like a regular field player.
Jack, I've got one thing to chime in if that's okay.
Oh, please.
So Pablo, your point is excellent, and it's worth noting that that's going to be a flashpoint if we have a typical situation towards the end of a half, towards the end of regulation, where the keeper is basically just trying to get the clock to go down at no risk. And eventually the attacker is going to step to the goalkeeper with the ball at his or her feet to challenge it. And if they're slow doing that, or the attacker is really frustrated, all of a sudden you've got a fresh new collision and a fresh new flashpoint of KMI for everyone to go get extremely well acquainted with each other. And so you want to just start moving in that direction. If you see the attacker going to challenge a keeper who's basically taunting the goal, just trying to wind the clock down with the ball at his or her feet, so that way you're in a position to deter too much of the mayhem.
Another question comes in from Kevin. Can you talk about collisions when the keeper and the attacker are both going for the ball? So what we want to remember is, soccer is a physical sport. So I'm going to give a couple scenarios real quickly, Kevin. We're in a corner kick situation, which is what we're talking about right now. The ball is coming in. It's going to land near the 6-yard line, right that smack dab in the middle of the goal. Keeper's coming out. Maybe the keeper wants to punch it. You have the attacker who wants to head it, and there's a collision. To Corey's point, I mentioned it earlier. I want to be on the side where I can try to see the eyes, see the intent of each of the players. I know that the goalie wants to punch it out. I know that the attacker wants to head it in. Just because there's a collision does not translate to a foul on either of them. So too many times I think referees will defer to the goalie, maybe hitting the ground and think that there's a foul, and there isn't. And yes, you can continue play and you can score even if the goalie's down, grabbing their ankle and rolling around the field. So we have to make sure that we're looking for the unfair challenge. We're looking for an over amount of tracking from that attacking player that started at the 12-yard line and is just throwing their body in, hoping to maybe head it. But you know what? If I take the keeper out at the same time, that's what was my goal. Or the keeper who's coming out who says, I'm gonna hit that ball out. But you know what? If I take the guy's head off at the same time, well, that's okay too. So I mean, we really have to make sure that we're watching that, and hopefully, what we've showed you today is making sure we're standing in the right place. So I think I'll defer to Corey and Jeremy to kind of tie a bow onto that with their thoughts. But I'll just say this. You really want to get into a good position. You want to have an idea that where this ball is going to land. So you've made a mental note that guy who's kicking the ball, that girl who's kicking the ball, they're going to make it all the way to the penalty mark. How do you know that? Well, you've seen that person take corner kicks already earlier in the game. Maybe you saw that person take a free kick earlier in the game. Maybe you saw that person in dynamic play cross the ball earlier in the game. The referee needs to know that player has that ability, and you have to adjust accordingly. And hopefully when you do that, you'll have a good shot at this collision that you're referring to. Corey, I'll go to you first. Do you have any questions? And Jeremy next, or any additional thoughts? And then Jeremy next.
I was thinking about whenever we were talking about defensive marking, zone versus man on man, and zone marking, and that's like almost like the goalkeeper collisions too. In the zone marking, you might have a defender in that area where that ball's going to drop, and he's already established in that area, and he's really standing still because he's in his zone, right? So you're standing in your zone, ball's coming right at you. Now you got attackers who are making runs at you, right? So it's not the best place for me to be defending, really, when I'm standing still and I got guys barreling down on me, because they're not going to be jumping straight up. They're going to be jumping with their momentum, right? So I think with the goalkeeper, as Shaq said, we're obviously, we tend to protect them, right? So if the goalkeeper's already there, the ball's coming down, he's jumping up to receive it, to catch it at its highest point, and the guy comes jumping in, not really straight up, but jumping up and into that goalkeeper. I'm usually calling it goalkeeper's favor in that area.
Yeah.
With the zone marking, you know, like I hope to see the eyes. That's why I said I do like to go to that overload position. If the attacker's looking at the guy up, down, and you know, then he makes the contact with the guy, I'm usually coming out. But if he's looking up and it's just a hungry play, you know, and even with the goalkeeper, that attacker makes a hungry play and it's fair and the goalkeeper's up on the ground, why should we, you know, punish the guy who's even put his own body on the line to get a goal for his team? This dog show thing before Jeremy picks that up, I don't know if I would go dog show if I'm not in the attacking half, but that might be for Shaq. But dog show there, it's a number of defenders, proximity to goal, direction. You got to take 5 Ds into consideration there. So just because the goalkeeper's running around scampering, you know, there might be more defenders there that have an opportunity to prevent, you know, an easy goal. But Jeremy, you want to chime on the goalkeeper challenge?
Yeah, I wanted to include the just following the eyes. You're just you square up. You're looking at the players. They're going to be tracking the ball. It's the hardest thing to do. It's one of the hardest referee habits to break, is to not always track the ball. You're looking at the players. That I was told that many times when I was starting out, watching the ball. But you got to watch them watch the ball, and if they even just take a side glance, then run up and looking at the player that they may be having a collision with, you're going to know if they're putting a little extra into it. You know what they're doing. You can see that if they're doing a little bit more than just checking out, making sure to know where the player is. So that's what just track, look at the eyes. You know where it's going to happen. They're gonna that's always the giveaway for me, is just following that. So thank you.
Cool.
Jesse, it looks like you pulled up a slide. Do you have a comment there? I don't mind addressing Brian's question either, but.
No, I just thought it would be helpful because Corey was talking about the zone marking. I want to pull the diagram up so that people can see what he's talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah, real quickly, Brian, to your question, I think we have to take into consideration the characteristics of that particular area of the game, how much time is left. I think the answer to, or I'm going to infer in your question that if the keeper has come all the way up to the other side, there's not a lot of time left and that team is losing. That's why the keeper's gone over there to the other side. You have to remember the 4 elements. Corey was talking about that quickly. So the number of defenders between where you are as the attacker and the goal. You've got the distance to the goal. So in this case, you might be 50 yards away, 60 yards away. The distance to the ball. So if you're, you know, how close was the attacker on the counter attack with, you know, vis-a-vis the ball. And then, of course, the direction of the play. So those are the 4 elements. And if, in my opinion, if those 4 elements are met at the 40-yard line, or call it the 60-yard line, you're 60 yards away, And it's a breakaway. You got an attacker. There's the ball. There's no defenders between you and the goal. You're heading right towards the other goal, so your direction is correct. The distance to the ball is correct or within playing distance. You've got the number of defenders is 0, and you got the defending team reaches up and grabs you, clips you in the back. I'm very comfortable. And by the way, just as a quick, I mean, a dog so, and a situation like that, everybody's going to see it. Everybody's going to see what's going on. So as a referee, I don't want to make anything up, right? And if everybody sees that that guy's taken out, there's nobody between him and the other goal, I'm not giving a dog so. I'm not giving a red card. Now, hear my words. I'm not giving them. I'm acknowledging what they've earned. And if they've earned that red card, I'm giving it. And I would defer to the integrity of the game and say, look, it doesn't matter where you are. If you've hit those 4 components, you're going to be penalized by it. I don't know if anybody else has any comments on that, but that's my thought.
I've seen like a triangle looking image in a clinic on dog show, and it was basically like a triangle that started at like the center kickoff mark and sort of like expanded out to where, like, you know, it might start dog show here in the center, and as you get closer to goal, it expands its you know, whatever location on the field that you would call that. So even Shaq, I guess I want to ask the question on top of that. So you're saying that in your own defensive half, or say a defender in their attacking half, right? A desperate tackle would not be tactical yellow card on sporting behavior, but could be dog show.
If there's no defenders between you and the goal, if you're within playing distance of the ball, if the direction of the play and everybody sees it, I'm comfortable with a red card for denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. Yeah. Because here's why, Corey, and I don't want to go too deep in this because the what if scenarios can be really tricky, but whenever I referee a game, now this is just Shaq Hill talking. When I referee today's game, I always keep in mind tomorrow's game. And I always keep in mind the integrity of the officiating community and the integrity of the game. What does that mean? I don't want to do this by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll give a red card in the 89th minute. Because if that's what it means to keep my integrity and my integrity, reputation, I don't know if that's the right word, but intact, then, and the games, in other words, the game's 0 to 90 minutes, anywhere in between, you do this type of behavior, it's a red card. So I think what I'm trying to say is every situation, but I've seen too many referees that it's at the end of the game and, you know, I could give a red, but I'm just going to give a yellow because I just want to walk out the door and I'm just going to blow my whistle. And I'm not even going to give a card. I'm just going to blow my whistle. Hey, we're at full time. It's over. You've seen this. You know what I'm talking about. So I don't want to be that referee. I want to maintain the integrity of the game from beginning whistle to the end of the whistle and anywhere in between. So it served me well.
Thanks, Shaq. We're kind of getting towards the witching hour, so I'm going to wrap this up. I want to say thank you very much to everyone who's participated tonight, not just our panelists, but also for everyone who's attended, but also specifically to thank all of our panelists. Again, we had Shaq Hill from DCV, Corey Arace from PA West, Jeremy Zare from Maryland, me. I don't think Kevin Nicholson made it tonight, but we'll make sure that we barrage him with questions about everything we've talked about later as everyone sees fit. The good news is that this is not the last of this series of presentations. I have two definite presentations that we already have up on the schedule. On August 9th, we're going to be talking about mass confrontations and post-game match security. And our presenters that night are all coming in from Pacific Northwest. We've got a pair of USSF national referee coaches, as well as one of the top NCAA referees from the Pacific Northwest. In addition, on August 23rd, we have another Zoom session that's going to be referencing of mentoring and assessments and how to get the most out of your assessment and mentoring, so that way, that time that you're spending in the assessment preparation during the game and the debrief, everyone's getting their money's worth, because otherwise, what's the point? Finally, I will say that we have tentative plans for a Zoom the week of July 26th through 28th, involving some of our FIFA referees. We are desperately trying to lock down dates and times on that. I will also make sure that we send out the slides again to everyone who RSVP'd tonight. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or any of our presenters. That's why their information is available. And thank you very much and have a great night. Oh, and the recording for the presentation will be up on YouTube as well. Thank you very much and have a great night, everybody.
Thanks, Jesse. Bye, Jesse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Jesse and Jeremy. Good to meet you guys. Shaq, good
Yep.
to meet you tonight as well.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
That went
Good
well.
stuff, everybody.
Enjoyed it.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
Karina, you had a question? No,
I'll
she's
talk to you
gone.
later.
Thank you, Julie. Miss you, Julie. And again, one more special thank you to Corey and to Shaq and to Jeremy.